So one of our subscribers by the name of Q Smooth suggested that we do a video on the history of gangster rap, which sent me on a quest to find the very first rapper arguably to be considered gangster, quote unquote. Because if you're gonna make a history of video, you gotta have a place to start, right? I'm Nate the Great from Take Flight 214, and this is a brief history of gangster rap. Before we get started, don't forget to hit the like button, as it does help us grow as a channel and spread the message. And if you're into fashion, art, or all things hype culture, then hit the subscribe button for updates every time we drop a new video. So consensus seems to be that the progenitor of gangster rap was Philadelphia-born Schooly D. And if you ask most people who they think started gangster rap, they'll probably say Ice-T. It will be wrong. Around 1985, Schooly D teamed up with DJ Cold Money, creating music reflective of his hard knock environment. He would go on to contribute music for several of Abel Ferrara's films, including PSK and King of New York, to name a few. Ice-T himself even went on record acknowledging Schooly D as the first to do it. Quote, "The first record that came out along those lines was Schooly D's PSK. When I heard the record, I was like, oh shit. And call it a bite or whatever, but I dug the record. My record didn't sound like PSK, but I liked the way he was flowing with it," end quote. Said inspiration sparked Ice-T to launch a movement in California that would revolutionize rap as we know it. After leaving the army, in an attempt to avoid getting involved in the gang-laden LA streets, a young Tracy Marrow began making a name for himself as a DJ. As a tribute to Iceberg Slim, Marrow adopted the stage name Ice-T. And in 1986, Ice-T would release his now iconic 6 in the Morning. Ice-T finally landed a deal with major label Siri Records. When label founder President Seymour Stein heard his demo for the first time, he was remembered to have said, "He sounds like Bob Dylan." Long story short, Ice-T would later go on to get flack for his song Cop Killer. And by flack, I mean Time Warner Music refused to release his next album, and he would subsequently leave the label shortly after. And it's actually pretty ironic that a guy whose biggest rap song was titled Cop Killer would later move on into acting, where he would portray more cops than any other single actor in history. And by 1987, the ball was rolling. The spark had been lit in California, and a combination of thriving gang culture and inspired youth brought a new term into the lexicon. Gangster rap was born. Poised to capitalize off of this new wave was a group of kids from LA. You may know them as NWA, or Niggas with Attitudes. We've all seen the movie, so I really don't have to go into too much detail. But NWA took gangster rap and introduced it to the world. They took you on a vivid trip through the streets of LA right from your speakers, no matter where you were listening to it from. NWA was not only extremely integral to gangster rap, but in rap as a whole. Once the group broke up, we got a chance to see how truly talented many of them were. With Ice Cube and Dr. Dre being the most popular explants, many forget about the role that the DOC played in furthering the gangster rap movement. C, or Tracy Lynn Curry, was a rapper, songwriter, and producer, actually from here in Dallas. He started as part of a group called the Feel of Fresh Crew, and later collaborated with rap group NWA, where he co-wrote many of their releases, as well as Eazy-E's solo debut album, Easy Does It. He also worked with Dr. Dre, co-writing his solo debut, while Dr. Dre would return the favor by producing the DOC's debut album, released by Ruthless Records. In 1989, he released his debut album, No One Can Do It Better, which reached #1 on the US top R&B/hip-hop album charts for 2 weeks, and spawned 2 #1 hits on the hot rap charts, It's Funky Enough and the DOC and the Doctor. 1989, months after the release of No One Can Do It Better, the DOC suffered a serious car accident that resulted in crushing of his larynx, permanently changing his voice. Since his recovery, he's since released 2 more albums, Helter Skelter in '96 and Deuces in 2003. Since 2006, the DOC has been working on new material for his 4th album, Voices. Not to be outdone, the East Coast was doing its thing too around this time. Gone were the Rapper's Delight and Run DMC days. Rappers like Kool G Rap had begun to incorporate more of the street element into their music. Nathaniel Thomas Wilson better known as Kool G Rap, began his career in the mid-80s as one half of the group Kool G Rap and DJ Polo, and was also a member of the Juice Crew. He's often cited as the most influential and skilled MC of all time, and a pioneer of the mafioso/street rap, containing hardcore content. G-Rap has been named as a major influence in some of hip-hop's most critically acclaimed figures, the likes of the Notorious Big, Nas, Eminem, and Jay-Z, as well as many underground rappers. By 1990, gangster rap was in full swing, and there were tons of rappers pouring out of the West Coast. By now, NWA had broken up, and Ice Cube was on a solo rampage. His albums, America's Most Wanted and Death Certificate, were recognized as classics by many a hip-hop head. Following the release of Death Certificate, Ice Cube transitioned into film, where his popularity was further enhanced by a starring role in Boys in the Hood, a feat that not only proved that rappers were finally starting to gain mainstream respect, but also shed light on a lucrative new avenue for rhyme slingers. Another West Coast native making noise in the 90s was Bay Area's own Too Short. Todd Anthony Shaw began rapping in 1985, becoming one of Oakland's better-known underground MCs, before he signed a deal with Jive Records in 1987. He experienced his first widespread success in 1989 follow-up album Life is Too Short, and remained one of the most popular rappers well into the 90s. There's an entire generation that learned game from Short, and how could you not remember his favorite catchphrase? Guys from the South were itching to get their feet wet, and in 1990, a trio from Houston broke down industry doors. The Ghetto Boys consisted of Scarface, Bushwick Bill, and Willie D. In the early 90s, several American politicians attacked rap groups associated with the subgenre gangster rap. A high-profile incident in which Bushwick Bill lost an eye in a shooting that helped boost the group's sales of the 1991 album We Can't Be Stopped. The album cover featured a graphic picture of the injured Bushwick Bill being carted through the hospital by Scarface and Willie D. On the album's title track, the group responded to Geffen Records ending its distribution deal with Def America. The album featured the single Mind Playing Tricks on Me, which became a hit and charted at number 23 on the Billboard Hot 100. Despite the best efforts of some in the U.S. government, by 1993 rap was booming and hurling down the track at unstoppable speeds. California had several top-tier stars, including MC8 and Dr. Dre and Suge Knight formed Death Row Records, and they owned ears of the public. 1993 saw the rise of Snoop Dogg among countless others from the Death Row machine, while groups like Wu-Tang Clan and Gangster were gaining fame from New York. The aforementioned Wu-Tang Clan would spark a long-standing relationship with hip-hop fans. The whopping 9-man group is regarded as one of the most influential hip-hop groups of all time. 1994 saw the emergence of two of arguably the best lyricists of all time, in Tupac and Nas. These two really need no introduction. You can't find a person around the globe that hasn't heard of Tupac, and Nas is definitely no slouch himself. This began to mark a change in the trajectory as far as content goes, as these two rappers, among others, began to cover all aspects of the ghetto, not just the shoot, bang, bang stories of a drug dealer's life. Despite the yin and yang nature of artists like Tupac's craft, activists such as C. Dolores Tucker worked hard to bring an end to this particular style of rap. By 1996, a new class of usual suspects began to make waves. Mobb Deep and Big L represented the cold, gritty streets of New York, with their tales of a hustler's lore and action rap, while rappers like Jay-Z and Notorious Big would weave beautiful tapestries of a drug dealer's past, laden with words of wisdom to live by. Groups like the Ghetto Boys and 8 Ball and MJG showed that the South could hold its own, but in 1997, Master P and his No Limit Records would take it to a whole new level. Percy Miller revolutionized the way rappers get paid by laying out a blueprint that minimized the role major labels played in rappers' earnings. The late 90s saw a height in record sales, a sort of peak before the fall, if you will. Rappers like 50 Cent cashed in on the tail end of the bullish run. He and the Young Jeezys of the world made no bones about being street guys first, with Jeezy proudly proclaiming not to be a rapper but a hustler. At the turn of the century, gangster rap had transformed and taken on a new look. Auto-tune slowly inched its way into the genre, with many rappers beginning to take on a, how should we say, less edgy tone. but there were still glimmers of rap's hardcore past. Rappers like Bobby Shmurda was so real with it, on and off wax, that he was locked up for gun charges where he remains today. Chicago saw the introduction of drill music, which definitely lives up to the gangster rap moniker. And most recently, Tekashi 6ix9ine, in an attempt to portray a more gangster persona, linked up with real-life gangsters to help solidify his claim. We all know his story. Keeping it real went wrong, and he rolled, or at least appears to be rolling. I mean, I guess we really don't know yet since the case is still ongoing. Despite the fact that contemporary rap seems to be stuck in an emo phase by and large, there are still guys out that can proudly carry the term gangster rapper, showing that over 30 years later the subgenre is still alive and well. Over the years it has changed, it's evolved and traveled around the country, or the world for that matter. And some say that C. Dolores Tucker and all those that thought that rap to be the scourge on the community, poisoning the minds of the youth, were onto something. They offer the conditions and thought process of today's youth as an example of the ills that have been done. I say, it's debatable. And we can have said debate in the comment section. Hit us up and let us know what you think. Did we leave anything out? Or what's your opinion on the effects of gangster rap, if any? Keep in mind, a detailed history of gangster rap would be an insanely long video. And I'm sure you didn't want to see a 2-hour docu-movie no more than I wanted to edit one. But if you would like to get the full story of the history of gangster rap, there's a book on Amazon that goes into a bit more detail than we did today. So, if you made it this far, you obviously enjoyed the content. And if so, don't forget to smash the like button and give us a follow for more videos on music, fashion, and all things culture. So for Take Flight 214, I'm Nate the Great, signing out. Until next time.